and welcome to the Victor Davis Hanson Show. Victor is the Martin and Neely Anderson Senior Fellow in Military History and Classics at the Hoover Institution and the Wayne and Marcia Buskey Distinguished Fellow in History at Hillsdale College. This is our Friday News Roundup, and we are going to talk Trump's been in the news all week as he's traveled to the Middle East. So we're going to look at some of the deals he's made in the Middle East, and those will be the first topics that we look at when we come back from these messages. Welcome back to the Victor Davis Hanson Show. You can find Victor at his website, victorhanson.com. The name of the website is The Blade of Perseus. So please come join us there for all Victor's writings, his video recordings, and also audio recordings. So we'd love to have you. We would love to have you as a subscriber as well for $6.50 a month or $65 a year. So Victor, Trump has been in the Middle East, and I'm anxious to hear your thoughts on all of the deals he's making, whether it is additional investment in the United States. He's got a Boeing deal with Qatar, and he's got arms sales deals with the Saudis. If we put it all together, all the other deals he's made with other countries, it's coming to $8 trillion in production goods in the United States.
Yeah, that's got the left very angry, all that money coming in. You know, that ratio that we mentioned before, that there may be 4,000 or 5,000 jobs for every $1 billion in investment. So for every $1 billion, there's 4,000 or 5,000 jobs. 1,000 billion is a trillion. So you've got 7,000, times $7,000 billion. So there's going to be a lot of jobs here. And when you look at the deportation and closing the border, there's not going to be a lot of cheap labor. So the wages are going to go up. There's going to be a demand for workers, as there was during the first term. And remember, Joe Biden had said when he came into office, he had attacked the Saudi royal family because of the Turkish embassy incident. And he said he was a killer, I think, or something to that effect. And then the Saudis just said fine, and they were estranged from Biden. And then during the 2022 midterms, they didn't pump oil as requested. They went to Venezuela, they went to the Middle East, and they begged people to pump oil because the price of gas got very high under the Biden hyperinflation. And then Biden drained 1 million barrels a day for 40 or 50 days out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Then he figured out you can't offend the Saudis, so then he wanted them to be friends with him. But by pointing out and recalling all this, they didn't like him. And so they didn't respect him. It's sort of what the Chinese reportedly had said during the negotiations, that they didn't respect Biden and they could walk all over him. So they really couldn't negotiate with him because they knew that he didn't represent the strength of America, that he would be seen by Americans as too weak. So the Saudis say that they're going to buy $140 billion worth of U.S. military equipment. And in addition to that, they're going to invest $600 billion in the United States. And then they go to Qatar, a rival of the Saudis. They want to outdo them, even though they're much smaller. They're going to spend somewhere well over $100 billion, maybe $200 billion on buying Boeing jets. That's a slap in the face to Europe that is angry about all this. Europe is watching all these deal making, and they are deer in the headlights. They don't know what to do because they're ideologically joined with the American left. And they have been talking about cutting their own deals with China. They went up the same amount of trade deficits as we do, about $1 trillion. But they pay for it because they have about a $300 billion surplus with us. That helps them. But they're very angry because they're not going to be selling as many Airbuses, and they don't know why Donald Trump is an American nationalist. They've never met a president in the modern era like that. So their attitude is, why is he doing these things for America? He should be subsidizing our defense and running up a big trade deficit with us and give us primacy. And the only missing element is he didn't stop in Israel. I guess he didn't want to offend them. Now he's dealing with an ex-Saudi, ex-ISIS, ex-terrorist head of Syria. Whatever Syria is today, it's been carved up. The Israelis are helping the Druze on their side. The Kurds have carved out a little bit. So it's a rump state, but he's going to recognize this government, apparently. And so the danger with all of this is that, take Qatar, for example, they've given, along with Communist China, as I said, $60 billion for higher education, and they fund radical pro-Palestinian, anti-American Middle East programs. And so he's really let them off the hook. The other thing is about I think what they're trying to do is their contribution to the trip was airplanes, because they gave this $400 million refurbished, elegant, plush 747 to the U.S. Air Force, and then for Donald Trump's not personal, but use as president, because Air Force One was aged and old, and Boeing did not come through. So you can see the subtext. Boeing's going to build 200 787s and 777s for Qatar when they're way back ordered, and they couldn't even build 2 for their own government. And the other thing about it is Donald Trump can say, look, I didn't really want to get the $400 million plane, but they're giving us so much business with these 200 jets they've ordered. This is just a token of our good friendship. And to get out of all the criticism, all he has to do is say, look, they gave us $1 billion El Udeid Air Force Base, and they remodeled it. They spent another $1 billion plus. We use it. We haven't paid anything for it. We don't pay rent. It was a gift for the government. All he has to do is saying, I'm going to use their jet until the Boeing comes on, and if the Boeing doesn't come online when I'm president, then the next president can use it, and then not give it to his foundation. At least running, maybe just as like a Reagan artifact, a museum piece, park it outside the Trump library, but don't use it as a personal plane, and he'll have no ethical problem. If he doesn't do that, and a foreign government gives a delayed gift to Trump himself via his foundation, he's going to have ethical questions. And already some conservatives are questioning why he can do it. I don't think anybody has a problem with, if this regime wants to give us a free air base, so we use it as we please, and they want to give us a free airplane, and they want to give us $60 billion. I don't hear anybody saying Harvard shouldn't get money from Qatar. They shouldn't, but nobody says that. They all get money from Qatar. Governments, military, universities. But the problem is Trump has to protect himself and not eventually gain ownership through his foundation or library.
I just want to add that with the Syrian new leader, I think his name is Ahmed al-Sharar. He's not only did he work for Al-Qaeda, et cetera, but also Trump has relinquished or taken off the sanctions against Syria. And he said he wants to do this because he wants to give the guy a chance to make something of his country. I love the way Trump, it's nice, actually.
He says things like, I like him, and it's important that you like somebody. This doesn't go down well with our elite, his colloquial, folksy way of business and these big momentous decisions. He's supposed to be a sober and judicious Republican, Romney-esque type of president, or maybe, a John Kerry president type wannabe. And so he would have a committee, and he would have a task force, and they would make a position paper, and then they would weigh the pros and cons, and then in 2 years we'd see a recommendation that was full of all these professional diplomats' verbiage, and he just does it.
Yeah, Pete Hegseth apparently also signed a cooperation in defense with, I think, the Qataris.
Yeah, they're right next to Saudi Arabia, but they're a friend of Iran, and so they have a balancing act. They don't want Shia populations to overthrow these monarchies in the Gulf, so they try to cut deals with Iran to look the other way. But they've gone a little bit too far. They host Al Jazeera, which is a very anti-American, anti-Israeli hate organ, and then they are the headquarters of the Hamas leadership in exile. And they, as I said earlier with Jack, they think they're Switzerland, but they're not. They're very anti-American, at least until Trump came in. He's got to be very careful, though, because, he doesn't have to be careful, because if they do anything, he can flip on a dime, and he will flip on a dime.
So, Victor, Iran, what I've been hearing this week is people are looking the Trump administration has says that it's going to in no way tolerate the enrichment of uranium and the need for centrifuges, since that is to get weapons grade and not for energy as they claim it is. So I was wondering your reflections this week on the uranium.
They don't need any nuclear facilities whatsoever. They have, I don't know, 100 years of natural gas and oil to power whatever they want. So they don't need it. They can go, they have all the sun in the world if they want to go solar panel. So they're trying to enrich up to 90%. I think they've enriched a lot of it at 60%. So that's way over what they need for a nuclear generator. So I don't know what Trump is up to, other than I think he's trying to tell the world, we're going to go back to maximum pressure. That's embargo their oil, delist them from the world's banking organizations so they can't really use foreign banks, put travel bans on them, and then see if that pressure brings fundamental changes. And what does he want? He wants three things. Number one, he does not want them to try to overthrow the Gulf monarchies. Number two, he doesn't want them to fund the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas. And number three, he doesn't want to get a nuclear weapon. But that's all there is to the regime. It can't govern. And so it spent hundreds of billions of dollars on these terrorist organizations. And if you could neutralize them, then you'd have a calm Middle East. Most of the Arab countries have gone beyond or evolved beyond the Yom Kippur War. So they're not really engaged in a military conflict with Israel. They have no desire to. They would lose. And they get along fairly well. So it's just Iran. And he's trying to get most of the Gulf money to recognize Israel and to make deals with the United States, and then to tell Iran, you're going to be even poorer because you're going to be sanctioned, isolated, embargoed. So why don't you do the three things that the region wants? I don't think they're going to do that. And so he's going to have a rendezvous. He's got to be very careful when he says things like, I could solve the Ukraine war in a day, or we'll probably cut a deal with Iran. I don't think they can cut a deal, because that regime has never cut a deal with anybody. They don't tell the truth. The Iran deal with the Obama administration was a joke. So I think what's more likely, when he says you're going to have to let American inspectors go in there and certify that you don't have enriched uranium up to weapons grade levels, they're going to say no, and the deal's going to be off, and then they're going to take it out. Whether you like that or not, it's going to happen, because I just don't think they're going to voluntarily surrender, or they're going to obfuscate and then delay.
Well, it seems to be a good week for Trump nonetheless, in terms of he's just everywhere across the world making deals. And it seems to be mostly, let's just all get along type of deals. So, you got to admire him for that.
All get along and get rich.
Yeah, let's all get along.
Yeah. Talk. Jaw, as Churchill said, beats war. So the left doesn't know quite what to do with all this. They really don't. They haven't got a strategy, because on the one hand, he's got tariffs that they used to be for. On the other hand, most of the unionized American non-governmental employees voted for him. On the other hand, the idea of taking tips off the tax rolls, or taking Social Security, exempt it from taxes, that was something the Democrats always talked about. And then being a peacemaker abroad and trashing neoconservatives, which he did. He just said nation building, nation. He was talking about the Afghan and the Iraq war, maybe even the first Gulf, I don't know. But so how do you criticize him if you're a Democrat? I don't know. You say he's a racist or he's a fascist, but he stole the middle class from them, and they are now the party of the very poor and the very wealthy, and he's the party of the middle class. And that's a bad thing if you're a Democrat, because the middle class is where elections are won.
They seem to be the party of the absolutely insane and crazy, if you follow all of their protests, but we'll leave that for a little bit later. The last topic before we go to our ads are Afrikaner refugees, as probably many of our audience know, are being accepted into the United States, though only the first are coming at about 47. It's turning the head of the left. They're going crazy. But their president of South Africa came out and said those refugees that are leaving are cowards. And this is the guy who actually signed the Expropriation Act in South Africa. I think he signed it in November, that said the government has the right to take away with no compensation lands that the state can show are for just and equitable reasons. So everybody knows. I was wondering
even
your
the
thoughts.
Western people are. I was surprised the BBC and all, they're all calling Trump a liar when he said, oh, they're taking their land away. They are. But he said, no, they have a new law. Yes, they don't have to give compensation, but they won't take it unless it's for public purpose. In South Africa, anything can be for public purposes, anytime, anywhere, to anybody. So that's bogus. So they're stealing land, and there's only 7% of the population is white. It's shrinking. What he's worried about, Ramaphosa, is that his name? What he's worried about is he's looked at what Mugabe did in Rhodesia and Zimbabwe, and he understands, he hates white people, he hates Afrikaners especially, but he understands that they make their expertise in agriculture and agribusiness make South Africa the wealthiest of all countries south of the Mediterranean, and everybody knows it, and he's going to drive out that group of people. He ran on, they played a song, Kill the Boer, so. And then, when they talked about them, the people on The View said that this was racist, that we didn't want these white people coming in because they were from an apartheid regime. The left has a very strange idea. They have been racist for 50 years. The only people really coming in to the United States are Asians and Hispanics and people from Africa, period. There are no people from the former British Commonwealth or from the EU, basically. So when you have a few people coming in that don't fit, then they go hysterical and say this is terrible, which begs the question, why do they want only people coming that are very poor and non-white, and why do they go hysterical when a measly 60 or 70 people are coming in who are real refugees? They've been threatened with physical violence, they've had family members killed, unlike the 10,000 a day that were coming here were not refugees. They just wanted stuff. And the answer is they're racist. They are racist. They have a vision of the United States of being a socialist, non-white. And when you say that, they say you're just a racist yourself. You believe in the Great Replacement Theory. That's the term they accuse conservatives of conspiracies, but they're the ones that brag about demography as destiny and the new Democratic majority. So they hate South African refugees coming because they were afraid that there'll be too many white people coming. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about Presley, I'm talking about Jasmine Crockett, I'm talking about the insanity on The View, I'm talking about the Black Caucus and the Congress. It's when you hear, as I said earlier, when you hear Jasmine Crockett talk about white boys, and you hear about Ilhan Omar talk about white men are terrorists, and you just hear that all the time, white. It's a racism that people are sick of.
Since you mentioned that, we have, as we often do, read comments at the end, and I have a few more, but there was one actually that addressed that. She said, because you and Jack had talked about that, Day Ketchum 1148 was the viewer on YouTube, and she said, or he said, you are 100% right. I am an American, Christian, veteran, and Black, and I'm tired of all this racism. I'm sick and tired of it. It's ridiculous. And yes, I voted for Trump, and he's a great president. So that's one of many.
He did, and according to Rasmussen, 39% of African Americans now support Trump's first 100 days. So all of this elite that the Democratic Party thinks that they have to promote, the new AOC, the new Jasmine Crockett, their own constituencies they don't have enough of their own constituencies. Given that they've driven out the white working class, they have to win 90% of blacks, 65% of it, and they're not doing it. And I think it's gotten worse. So, and now we have that crazy Sri, is that his name? Is he a Sri Lankan congressman, that he's going to impeach Trump?
Victor, let's go to ads, and then we'll talk about Sri when we come back. Stay with us, and we'll be right back. I would like to take a moment to welcome a new sponsor, Vibrance. The ingredients in Vibrance Super C Serum can replace your day creams, night creams, wrinkle creams, neck creams, and even dark spot reducers. Made in USA of the highest quality ingredients, including vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, vitamin B5, and vitamin E, Super C Serum delivers noticeable results. Simplify your skincare routine. Get a healthier complexion and minimize wrinkles and age spots with Vibrance. And if you don't find it better than your current skincare routine, you'll get a full refund. Go to Vibrance.com/Victor and save up to 37% and free shipping. That's Vibrance, Vibrance, Vibrance.com/Victor. I used it for the first time the other day and it made my skin immediately feel softer and moister. What a difference. Welcome back to the Victor Davis Hanson Show. Victor is on X, his handle is @VD Hanson, and on Facebook, he's Hanson's Morning Cup. And there's also the Victor Davis Hanson Fan Club on Facebook, which is not associated with us, but they do a great job researching, especially the new stuff they do put on, but they research and put on old works of Victor's, and they do a great job at that. So please find Victor in any of those spots. So back to Sri, and I think it's Tanadar. And yes, he's proposing legislation that will impeach Trump on 7 articles. So I was wondering, I think the Democrats are not on his side, so it does show a divide in the Democratic caucus. I was wondering what you thought.
Well, they've done it twice. Donald Trump's the only president to have been impeached twice. He's the only president to have been tried as a private citizen. He's the only ex-president that had his home raided. He's the only ex-president to be the subject of state, local, and federal prosecutions and indictments. He's the only major presidential candidate that there were ever in 25 states to take him off the ballot. And so we've kind of forgotten all that. It's been, I don't know, 6 months or 8 months ago during the campaign. And now he wants to revive that and just show you how crazy it is. And then the question is, did we ever hear of this man before this? I never had. I had never heard of Jasmine Crockett until about 6 weeks ago when she started screaming about white people. I didn't even know I still don't know who he is, the mayor of Newark, and he wants to be governor. So what is this all about? It's street theater. It's about getting name recognition and taking over from the old guard of the Democratic Party, and they're going to go full McGovern and full Dukakis. I hope they do, and they're going to run that party in the ground because nobody's going to vote for this agenda. What Trump is doing also, it's really important to point out, he's doing 2 things. He's saying that things that can't go on won't go on. You can't print $37 trillion and rack up that much debt. You can't print you can't give to our competitors $1.2 trillion in trade surpluses every year, and you cannot run up a budget deficit of $2 trillion after you've borrowed $7 trillion. And you can't just keep fueling the Chinese military with trade surpluses and foreign exchange. And you can't just keep letting in 10,000 people a year. So everybody knows that. But the second existential question is, why did they do all that? And how did they pull it off? Because their positions on transgender, not very popular. Open border, not very popular. Afghanistan, not very popular. Soros crime policy, not very popular. Hyper economy, not very popular. So how does the left exercise power? And Trump has come up with a solution. He says the progressive project does not rely on popular support. All of the issues do not poll 50%. So what do? They rely on the bureaucracies, the lowest learners, the Anthony Fauci's, the James Comey's, right? So he's going after that by cutting them. And then he says, they're the big mega foundations, Tides Foundation, Gates, so we're going to start taxing their income, their endowments. I think that he should have an exemption up to $10 billion, because if you look at the mega foundations, 100 billion and plus, they're all left-wing. But our little Bradley Foundation is 1 billion. But they need to exempt some of the smaller ones. And then he's saying, where else did they get their power? Oh, they train all of our future leaders in the university. And they rely on federal money. And Mr. Garber, the president of Harvard, I think he's saying to the Trump administration, do we use race? Don't ask that question, because we have racially segregated graduation ceremonies, dorms, and our admissions are race weighted. Do we report all the gifts from China? No, we don't want to go there, and we haven't reported all that money. Do we gouge the federal government 50 to 60% in surcharges? Yeah, we don't want to go there, we do. Do we protect speakers who come on campus as invited guests with First Amendment? No, we don't want to talk about that. So he's going after the universities, and he's on the right side of that. So foundations, university, media, fake news, he's always attacking the media. Caroline Levitt has got the new media in there and kicked some of the old ones out. And she's a little bulldog, that's a big bulldog. I don't mean physically, but her stature, her ability to take them on is pretty amazing. So what I'm getting at is part of the Trump counter-revolution is actually having these issues and policies and agenda. The other half is saying, how did we get these terrible things on the border and overseas? Oh, I know what it was. The foundations fund DEI. Oh, the higher education lobby indoctrinates people. Oh, the media warps the news. Oh, pollsters do this. Oh, and he's going after every one of these institutions at the root causes. And that's why they're getting so angry. It's a real counter-revolution.
Yes, and we're all hoping he's very successful in what he's doing. So since we're on the Democrats, we might as well talk about some of the news about potential candidates for 2028. Old Pete Buttigieg is out giving campaign speeches to audiences and sporting a beard, apparently, as though it's going to make him more amiable to the average Joe crowd, I guess, if I can put it that way. And then the other one is Gavin Newsom, who has decided against allowing illegal aliens to get California Medi-Cal, putting them on.
They are scrambling as fast as they can. And Pete Buttigieg, ultimately they're going to be judged on whom they support and what was their record when they had power. Pete Buttigieg was Secretary of Transportation. He was lecturing us on racist clover leaves, remember? And on-ramps. And he drove up in an SUV, then pulled out a bike, and then got the cameras there, and he rode a bike to work. So he's a sanctimonious fraud. He always was. Self-righteous, sanctimonious, going nowhere. Gavin Newsom's got a problem because he knows that he's got to move to the center, so he's doing that rhetorically, but he can't deal with the homeless problem. He said, come on, you cities, stop. And then he knows that 40% of the state's residents are on Medi-Cal, and he wants to grandstand and say, I'm going to pay for their Medi-Cal, and he doesn't have any money. And he can't raise taxes because it's 13.3%. He's losing 300,000 people a year. And he's got the highest poverty rate in the United States at 20% of the population. 1/4 of Californians can't pay their power bill. So what he's trying to tell the legislature and Silicon Valley and all of his constituents is, calm down, because we've got about 20 million Appalachian Californians. They're poorer than Appalachia, and they can't afford $5 to $6 gas. They can't afford 30 to 40 cents a kilowatt energy. They can't afford a home. We're driven all the insurance companies out. We're driving out the oil refineries. We drove out the timber companies. So how's he going to... I was driving today I spoke for the Hoover Institution. I'm kind of sleepy because 250-mile trip each way. And my point is the 99 freeway, when you get to Delano, California, and you're cruising along at 6 lanes, 3 each direction, and it goes down to 2. And it's exactly the same as when I was 16, so almost 55 years ago. He hasn't done a thing. It's a blood alley. It's the most dangerous freeway. So why doesn't he just cancel his podcast and just fix it? Why doesn't he build a new reservoir and just cancel his podcast? Why doesn't he just close the border and say to ICE, we're here to help you and we're going to deport illegal aliens? He can't do any of that.
You mean, why doesn't he just get to work, huh, Victor?
Or why doesn't he just be a technocrat or, I don't know, an effective guy? But he can't. He's incompetent, and B, his entire life he's faked his way through with his looks and his little shtick. You know, he kind of goes like this when he talks, and he reminds me of Justin Trudeau a lot. And so there's nothing there. There's no there with Gavin, and so he can't do the issues like he wants to. And so I don't think he's going to make it. I really don't. And I don't think Pete Buttigieg's going to make it. I don't know about Josh Shapiro. I don't think Governor Pritzker's going to make it. He's a buffoonish type of character. He comes across as a spoiled Nepo baby.
Just one thing, though, if you're thinking that of them running against Donald Trump, I could see that, but they will be running against somebody else, a J.D. Vance or a Marco Rubio. And you still think all of those guys, like Pritzker, couldn't toe the line?
Maybe a Josh Shapiro.
Yeah.
An Andy Bashar, the governor of Kentucky. But they're looking for a Bill Clinton. They're not looking for a Barack Obama leftist. They've been there, done that. And they're looking for a Bill Clinton centrist. And that's going to be hard because the MAGA agenda cut a lot of their constituencies out from under them. The Republican never-Trumpers who got angry about tariffs or supporting unions or, not getting involved on the ground in various conflicts, they're just irrelevant now. They're marginal. The Bulwark constituency is very small. The Dispatch constituency, it's not a constituency. There is no never-Trump constituency anymore. They've been absorbed by either the left or they're irrelevant.
Victor, maybe just a small topic. Hannah Dugan, the judge that snuck an illegal alien out her back door to avoid ICE, has been indicted by a federal grand jury this week, and it looks like a very strong case against her. What do you think her fate is?
She'll be convicted if they have a jury that's open-minded. I mean, if you're a federal judge and there's federal officers, both uniformed and ununiformed, and they have a warrant for someone who broke the law, and he's an illegal alien, and she cancels her trial right in the middle of it. She just delays it. She leaves the victims who came there to see justice. She and this crazy public defender kind of facilitate his secret exit out of a jury side door, which I guess the non-uniformed ICE people saw. But the point was, she didn't care if he went out there and somebody tossed him a gun or somebody was waiting for him. They could have injured officers. She was aiding and abetting a felon, and she should go to jail. And especially if you're a Democrat and you lecture the country as no one's above the law, including Letitia James. I found out that statue is not hers.
Jack told you that.
Jack. But
looks like Letitia James.
It does look like her.
Well, that's one more topic that was good this week was the inflation rate, according to the Labor Department statistics, is at an all-time low at 2.3%. So if nothing else, cheers to Donald Trump for his...
There is no inflation to speak of, and corporate profits are up, jobs are up. They're going to readjust the GDP, it looks like, so it will be it might be over 2%. There's no bad news except on the Wall Street Journal and the left-wing press that say recession, stock market's back where Donald Trump was when he was inaugurated. So now everybody is listening. What was all that about? The hysteria. Donald Trump ruined it. He's all over. I would ask some of the Wall Street Journal writers and op-ed, would you please now come forward and say that you apologize for telling the country that he destroyed his administration and that we had destroyed the stock market and we were headed toward a recession. That was not true. I said that on our podcast. Why don't you just take a deep breath and not judge something right in the middle of the effort? And that's what they did because they hated him so much. And we don't know what the effect of this is. We have never, ever seen in 100 days commitments for $7-8 trillion we don't know if they're going to honor that. We don't know if the money's going to be actualized. We don't know any of it. But if it is, and it comes at a time when you have a president that's cutting taxes, deregulating, and yet addressing debt, and all of the indicators on jobs and economic growth are good, and you put that into it, you could have an explosively robust, something you've never seen before. And that is what destroys the democratic, they can't handle it, they can't process it, they can't imagine that. So they have to be against foreign investment. They have to be against deporting illegal alien felons. So I've never seen anything like it. Hikem Jeffries commented on the judge, but he also commented on the representatives that were assaulting ICE members. He said that's a red line if Speaker Johnson takes them off committees. And I'm thinking, well, you did. When you had the January 6th committee, there were nominations that the minority leader at the time, Kevin McCarthy, he has the prerogative to make his nominees. And Nancy Pelosi said, nope, not him. He's a real Republican. And nope, not him. Nope, not her. Liz Cheney, yes. She voted for Trump's impeachment, and she's not politically viable anymore, and the Republicans hate her. And Adam Kinzinger, ditto, ditto, ditto. He's not going to be in office anymore. The Republicans hate him, and he voted for impeachment. So there you got it. And so Hikem Jeffries is very strange. He says that's a red line. What's he going to do if these representatives assaulted federal officers? I thought he said that no one was above the law on the lawfare matters. So is he now saying that if you're a member of the House of Representatives, you can go into a federal building and assault the security there and just walk in? And you add the other consideration that he's doing all of this on behalf of felons and murderers and rapists? And then he says this is a red line. What are you going to do? What does he mean by that? A red line, you're going to get Al Green to shake his cane again? Or are you going to cut another video of kickboxing female representatives? Or are you going to go full potty mouth with more of the SHI blank 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 videos? Or you're going to have the F blank videos again? Or you're going to get Tim Walz to say that he's delighted when the Tesla stock drops, or that Elon Musk is a dip, S-H-I-T, or an A-S? Is that what you mean by a red line? What does he mean? Does he mean what, Cory Booker, or we're all going to go out in the street?
Since you're there, Victor, I did want to ask you something, not so much about the case itself and Sean Diddy Combs, but the reflection it has on our culture. And I think it kind of fits in with the rhetoric coming out of the left as well, or at least the crass rhetoric coming out. But let's first go to some messages, and then we'll come right back to talk about that.
Are you ready to move easily and independently without pain or stiffness holding you back? Do you want to look in the mirror and see a plump, hydrated glow instead of more fine lines and wrinkles? Discover Native Path Collagen. Made with only type 1 and 3 collagen fibers, the two most important types that make up 90% of the collagen in your body, found in your cartilage, bones, skin, hair, nails, and gut. Type 1 and 3 provide maximum benefits without the need for unnecessary fillers. Native Path Collagen is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners. Plus, it's third-party tested for heavy metals, ensuring purity and safety. Completely flavorless, Native Path Collagen can be added to anything. Coffee, smoothies, oatmeal, you name it. Its peptide formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes perfectly without clumping. And you can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. Visit getnativepath.com/Victor and start your transformation today. That is GetNativePath.com/VICTOR. I personally love the PM Collagen formula with melatonin. It's given me many nights of great sleep, and the electrolyte drink mix for my water at workouts. They are my friends, and I'm sure they will be yours.
Welcome back to the Victor Davis Hanson Show. You can catch Victor on YouTube and on Rumble and Spotify. And on Spotify, remember, it is the Victor Davis Hanson Podcast on Spotify is the full name of it. So, Victor, I don't want to ask you about the salacious and disgusting details of the Sean Diddy Combs case, but he was a entertainment mogul as well and put out lots of music that was crass and of the same sort of culture that sprung his own freak-out parties. And I thought, that kind of goes along with the Democrats resorting to the rhetoric of cussing, I guess I would say. It also is kind of concerning in the broader cultural picture of a young population that finds that stuff entertaining and that is increasingly, because of AI, because of DEI, becoming less and less educated and less skilled.
Remember Obama had rappers at the White House and one of their ankle bracelets went off. And then he said his favorite rapper was Lamar Kendrick, How to Pimp a Butterfly. And then in one of those lyrics, I looked at the one that Obama was one of his favorite songs. He said, "Kill Popo, the police. Kill the police." So it's a very crass rapper culture, and no one wants to suggest that it's deleterious to women, to anybody gay. It's homophobic, it's misogynistic, it's nihilistic. And in Diddy's life, that's what he did. He was the rapper version, the cruder version of Jeffrey Epstein. And he's going to meet the same fate, because what the prosecutors are doing, fairly or not, they're just saying, well, we're not even going to get into the question of whether these people were coerced. They're all on drugs. We're just going to show you tapes and get testimonies, and it's going to be so primitive, so foul, so pre-civilization, defecating, urinating in people's mouths, just horrible things that are beyond your imagination. Pimping his own girlfriend out, and the poor woman is there pregnant. And it's just one colossal horror story, and the jury's going to hear all that, and they're going to say, you know what, I'm not condoning this. I don't really care whether they proved beyond a reasonable doubt that everybody was coerced, but this guy is sick, and what he's doing is sick, and he's destroying people's lives that went to these parties, and I think they're going to convict him. And I think the evidence, unfortunately, Cassie Ventura should have never. She was 21 when she met this guy, but she tried to run out of that hotel, and he beat the proverbial daylights out of her. But I don't know why she ever went back with him. She should never. It's sick, and all these people that show up these parties, that's what's even sicker. So you know that he is sick. You know that he coerces women. You know that he does the most foul, horrific things at these parties, and yet you go to them, and they're famous. And there were some celebrities that went there just to show up and be seen. And it's his brand was appealing to African American youth, Hispanic youth, white youth, who thought it was cool to talk about raping women, beating up people, the BITCH, killing cops, all of that stuff, thug stuff. And I think we're in a new era now where people are sick of it.
I hope so, because if you continue it and you see these young kids not really getting education because AI is doing all their writing, it's doing all their reading for them, they don't have skills and they can't process, they just go with whatever they're told they're supposed to like. And that could be anybody. It doesn't have to be, obviously, it's not going to be Sean Diddy Combs anymore, but the next guy will come in with the same crass culture that will attract them. And so isn't it scary, I think?
And what is Harvard and Yale doing about it? They're training the teachers in their schools of education. They're not doing anything. They're aiding and they're pouring gasoline on the fire with DEI. We should have a Marshall Plan, K through 12, about reading, writing, math, strict guidelines, strict homework assignments, strict discipline, strict attendance, so that when they go to college, they at least can emulate their grandparents' preparation. But we just pass it on. Harvard has remedial math at Harvard. Stanford has remedial math. And then they lie about what they've been doing. They threw out the SAT, they threw out comparative evaluations of GPAs, and then they went full DI. And they still want us to think that they're turning out the smartest people, and if you're not, I'm sorry. They're not very well educated. I met them. I deal with them at Stanford. They're not very impressive. This last 4 or 5 years, these students are not impressive. Not like they were in the past.
Yes, and they shouldn't allow, in this Marshall Plan for education, they shouldn't allow phones or computers in school. These students should have to come in and perform without those aids at all. So speaking of criminal cases, I just thought, and I'm not sure, this is a surprise for you. Do you have any thoughts on that Menendez brothers case? It's been in the news all week. They are trying to, after 35 years in jail, to get out, and their argument was always that their father had molested them. And I don't know how strong.
Well, their original argument was they never shot him. It was somebody else came in and shot him. Now they admit they shot him. They lied about everything. They shot their mother when she was preparing their college applications. If you believed that your father was a molester, why'd you shoot your mother? Why'd you shoot your father? Why don't you just call the authorities? There's no evidence. So somebody dies and he can't speak from the grave, and then you say that you try to tell the world that you shot him because he was having sex with his own children. I never believed anything they said. I think there's lots of cases. We had one not too long ago in Fresno, California, of a very privileged, wealthy kid who had affluent parents, and he went in and shot his parents and then he claimed that somebody else did it. It's a very common phenomenon, actually, as murders go. And so I think they really wanted the inheritance, and because they were lazy, spoiled, rotten kids. And I wouldn't let them out of jail, no way, no how. Not for what they did. They're lucky they didn't get the gas chamber.
Yeah, it seems like they did a lot of damage while they were shooting them. So, also, there's been tales of Chinese spies found at Stanford again. Is that true? I can't believe it.
Stanford Review is running a long series, very long article detailing from some sources that there's 3 categories of Chinese national students. There are the small percentage that are actively engaged in espionage. They are the other ones that are not actual agents of the People's Liberation Army, but they're subtly threatened their parents, their family, unless they cooperate, and they reluctantly pass on information. And then there's the rest of everybody that have to go through a routine debriefing when they leave campus, and they are obligated by law to tell the Chinese government anything they want to know about American technology expertise. So Stanford had a Confucius Center Institute, which was a front for espionage. They had a neurophysicist visiting lecturer who was actually, I think, a lieutenant colonel in the Communist Party's People's Liberation Army. They were fined by Betty DeVos for not divulging all of the money that they had been receiving from Communist China. And I think, again, we're all tired of it because we know what they did with COVID, the Chinese government. We know what they did when these Confucius institutes were exposed. We know what they do when we expel. They say, it's racist. You're just like the yellow peril again. You're racist. And I don't think that works anymore. No, we're not racist, but we want to ask ourselves, would the world fall apart if there were not 300,000 Chinese communist students here? I don't mean that they're all communists, but the vast majority are the children of party elites and provincial officials. So I just don't see why we have to have 300,000 potential spies in the United States. It doesn't make any sense other than they're price gouging them and they want the money, the universities do. It's a very bad investment. Yeah, and I think if you just sent them home, China's scared. I mean, they talk a tough game, but if we just don't buy their products, they're in big trouble. If we were just to say, you know what, expel all of our students from China, we'll expel all of yours. It would be, I don't know, 10 to 1. I don't think, no, it'd be more than that. We only have 10 to 12,000 students left, you know? So it would be 30 to 1. And I don't know why we don't do it. I know why we don't do it. They want the money, the universities do. But why would we let 1 or 2% be active spies? You know, 2,000 or 3,000, 4,000 students roaming around, sending all of our And then when you look at their new latest jet fighter, or you look at their newest tank or their newest military vessel, they all look like ours. Their uniforms look like ours. Their caps look like ours. Everything.
All right, and then since we're into the salacious, I don't know how much credence I put into this, but the Business Insider apparently has made an argument that Donald Trump Jr. is the Hunter Biden of the Trump administration because he has a investment firm, 1789 Capital, it's called, and the Business Insider claims he's doing business in China and Ukraine, and they never asked on this particular article for Donald Trump Jr. to give a response to it. They didn't even allow it. They just slandered him. So I'm surprised.
He's not Hunter Biden because he pays his taxes, number one. Number two, he's not sending checks to his sisters or his father with a little fake note on the bottom of the check, loan repayment. Number three, he's not a cokehead. Number four, he doesn't lose laptops. He doesn't lose, the family doesn't lose their diaries. They don't lose their firearms in dumpsters. He's not peddling his art and, blowing paint through his nose and trying to get donors to give money so they can get access to his dad. He's a business person, and he knows that the Middle East is where the money, and he and Jared Kushner are going over there to make money. And the degree to which Donald Trump is going to be a beneficiary of that, that's not right. I don't think he is. So it has to be separated. But my life, I can just tell you that there was a lot of Kennedy hangers-on. There was Donald Nixon, Richard Nixon's brother, and there were a lot of
Billy Carter.
Trying to remember Bill Clinton's brother. He was a cokehead, but not that anybody in the Trump family uses drugs. But anyway, Clinton's brother, who was, I think he died finally, and he was pardoned by Clinton. And John Kerry's son was a partner of Hunter's, and Obama had all sorts of problems with what was the one woman that should have been deported, and she was in Boston or something on welfare, and she was given a visa, and then there was supporter. I mean, he had his brother come over, and they just basically waived immigration laws for the Obama family. And so Hunter is he's sui generis. He's a special case. He was flagrant, and he probably raked in $30 million. And it's all on the laptop. All you have to do is look at those messages. Mr. Big, Mr. 10%, I'm paying his power bills. He doesn't appreciate me. The only mystery with Hunter was he was playing a sick game with his dad and blackmailing him, basically, because remember when he was up for the IRS things? Oh boy, my dog's going crazy. So Hunter was kind of playing a sick blackmail with his dad. When he was up on the IRS charges, his lawyer threatened to bring his dad, the President of the United States, to testify and on his behalf that he'd paid his taxes, which is meaning he was saying, look, Dad, unless you get me out of this, you're going to have to testify and you're going to perjure yourself. You're going to have a choice of either lying to protect me or telling the truth and putting your own son in the can. Now you want that? So you get these crooked lawyers and judges, and then you could see that, oh, I lost my crack pipe in a rental car. Oh, I've lost a third laptop. Oh, Ashley lost her diary talking about Dad showering with her when it was oh, my handgun turned up in a dumpster. Oh, I am blowing paint through my nose and I'm selling them to lobby. Oh, Dad, is that a little bit too much conflict of interest for you? In other words, he was saying, yes, I'm a cokehead. And yes, I am erratic. And yes, I may have had cocaine brought into the White House and they found it. But you know what? I made all of you people money. $30 million. And it was old, and I'm just quoting him verbally now, literally, on the laptop. When he said, I'm getting sick and tired of this family that I pay for everything, and I've been paying for Dad. And they always said that he was, the black sheep. Well, the black sheep was the money man. And now Dad is not there, and Hunter has no money, and all the Biden's lifestyles and expenses caught up to them.
It's all going downhill for Hunter.
Jill Biden. They're saying, Jill, we're crooks, but we have no grift anymore because Joe's not in a position of power and Hunter's can't leverage everybody. So you've got to step up and pay all their bills, and you can have to write a tell-all memoir on how we covered up Joe. And that's what she's doing.
And they're all writing tell-all memoirs about their lives. Not the Bidens, but all of the left wing, which brings me to, yes.
How many times did Jake Tapper, I think, is on tape 11 times berating somebody who suggested that Joe Biden was non-compos mentis. Remember when Laura Trump did it about the stutter? Oh, that's not it. And now he's writing a book about people like himself, and he's going to make money on it. And they're all that way. They all, at first they blamed, they couldn't hide it anymore after the debate. Then it was a scramble to the exits. Who's going to be the first truth teller? So then at first they blamed the Bidens. Oh, we didn't know. They had a wall around him. I don't think that was Joe Biden I talked to. It must have been somebody else. He was fit as a fiddle. Remember Joe Scott? Well, this is the most coherent Biden I've ever met. And then when that didn't work, then it was the media did it. The media was for it, and now they don't know what to say.
But Chuck Todd does, so he was out in the news this week claiming that it was Chuck Schumer's fault for allowing Joe. And Chuck Schumer said, we're moving forward. We don't even want to talk about this anymore. He's probably the smartest of them all, I'd say.
All of what does it all boil down to? All boils down to we don't really care about the United States. We don't care that he has a nuclear codes. We don't care he's going to let in thousands. All we want is a waxen effigy. And we want him there in that chair maybe 2 or 3 hours a day, 3 days a week, and then we're going to turn the whole thing over to the Obama people, the prior administration. And they're going to make every judicial appointment. They're going to make every key decision on the border, on Afghanistan, on the economy, and they're just going to go DEI crazy, ESG crazy, you name it. New Green Deal, Green New Deal, they're going to go crazy.
Yeah, the sad thing is that they haven't let out what unelected official was actually making all the calls. And that's what I think we're all angry about.
I think it was all of the aides that worked for Obama. They had all the Obama people. Susan Rice was in the administration. That's why she was so angry when she got fired from a board. You know, she said that Pete Hexas was a white male, cisgender, da-da-da-da-da. But she was there, and she's Michelle's best friend. And they were just all, if you go look at them, they were all there. Anita Dunn, the communication, she was there. Jen Psaki, she was there. It was all Obama retreads, all of them. Jake Sullivan, he was working for Biden when he was working for Obama, when Biden was the vice president. They were all retread Obama people. And they just called Barack up for instructions. And he said that. He said he'd like to be a third-term president if he could phone it in and didn't have to be seen. And he got his wish.
I was going to say, you think he got his wish there?
He did. And he ruined the country almost.
Well, Victor, we're at the end of our show, and we're going to hear a few more. I know I read you earlier a comment from one of the YouTube. This one says, and it's from F16 Weave, and it says, Mr. Fowler, you don't get enough credit. You come prepared every day, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you for making VDH and yourself a must-watch on my daily watched YouTube video.
Everybody should know that I don't really know all of the topics that come up. Some of them he's given me advanced, but he's always researching. So my job is to react extemporaneously, and sometimes he sends me that day, and I try to research them. But he's the one that does all of the background.
All right, and then from Still Learning 8360, like Trump asks if we're tired winning, I ask, are we tired learning so much every time we listen to VDH? Thanks to Jack and Victor for each and every wonderful episode. So 2 very nice and reflective of other comments as well.
Well, we drove 250 miles today from Newport, so I'm kind of not up to my game with my sinus infection. I spoke last night to a group who were a very nice group of people, beautiful country club. And at 5 in the morning, Los Angeles, the 405 was a mess.
No, that must have been brutal coming at 5 in the morning.
And I didn't sleep very much. I got back at 9:30 and I thought, oh, I'm so tired. And then like a clock at midnight, that's that thumping in your sinus.
But you're here, and you did it.
I'm here,
and we're
but
at
I
the
feel
end
like
of
I
the
didn't do a
show.
very good job because I'm half asleep.
You did an excellent job, so thank you for all your words of wisdom today. Thanks to our audience for choosing to join us here at the Victor Davis Hanson Show. Please come back for the next episode. Jack and Victor do their show on Tuesday and Thursday, and Sammy Wink is who I am. Victor and I talk on the Friday News Roundup and his special weekend episode. So we'll have one, we'll probably produce it tomorrow for the weekend. So please join us.
Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. See you next time.
This is Sammy Wink and Victor Davis Hanson, and we're signing off.